Hello, Thomas.
Hey, hello.
Can you hear
Everything's
me?
okay with the audio?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so we can begin, and let's start with the fact that once again MoonSpell collaborated with Jaime Gomez Arellano. So what has he brought to the world of MoonSpell? What makes him the one responsible for the band's sound ever since Hermitage?
Well, I think especially for Hermitage was just us experimenting with Jaime for the first time. You know, it was an album that Moonspell was exploring. We came to him because he was used to work with bands more on the progressive side of metal too, and some bands that are more indie inside metal. So he had this portfolio and this thing about him that with Paradise Lost, etc., that we really wanted to change the producer from Extinct and 1755 and went to the UK to work with them. And we became friends. He lives now in Portugal too, in Porto, where we recorded the album. And I think even though we work with great producers since Valdemar to Madsen, Jens Bogren, Hili Lesma, um, he has a feeling with us and a proximity with us that also brought a vision to the album. So, and it's quite curious because we came to him for Hermitage and he came to us with Moonspell saying that this is a more typical Moonspell album. This is you guys doing what you do best, mixing metal and gothic. And I really want to do this album. And I think he definitely was worth another opportunity, another chance with Moonspell, and vice versa. And it was great to work with him hard sometimes because he's a very demanding producer and he cracks the whip when we are going, musicians, we like to go in studio and experiment. But no, he had a vision for the album. When we presented him with the songs, he said, well, this has to sound like this. We cannot have a lot of layers. Everything has to sound perfect. Everything has to sound uh, not a wall of sound, but everything like old school organic drums, bass, because sometimes your new songs have a lot of room. So I think he was the sixth member of Moonspell for this one. I think he has something that's is really good. He doesn't want to make all the bands sound the same. You listen to a lot of his productions, and they all sound a bit different. And like some productions of metal nowadays, you see, you can already recognize who's the producer, who's the studio, and he has a lot of taste too, which is great. He always dresses up. He always has a hat. He always has this gothic, whatever metal thing about him that was very important for the band. So I think we're very happy with him, and I think we're gonna work with him in the future because we are totally at ease with him and he's very honest to say in your face that you guys are not performing, you guys are just making stuff up. And I think that's a relationship. We always had a great time with every producer. Don't get me wrong. Some are harder to work with, but Jaime, it's not like he does everything we want, but he has a vision for the album, and we debate it, and we come across with that vision on the final mix and the final result of Far From God, which is an album I think it sounds really great.
And the promotional notes describe Far From God as Moonspell's 21st century irreligious. Would you agree with that? Because for me, every Moonspell album was very different from the other. Even Irreligious was completely different from Wolfheart.
Yeah, I still remember why Religion is different from Wolfart. Wolfart nowadays, it's this big legendary album that everybody talks about, and I love that album. I have great memories of defending it on the road, but it wasn't like this from the beginning. It was not like people in Poland or in Germany were running to the shops to buy Wolfart. Wolfart was a weird album to start with. People were like, what is this? Is this folk metal? Is this gothic metal? Is this black metal? There was six people over there, and everybody was pushing to, and it was natural because we were very young, hot-blooded, coming from Portugal. We didn't expect to go to Germany and record with Valdemar, so everything was we still processing it while we were there. So when we heard that, and then even regardless, the album became so legendary and it sold so much copies. We weren't happy with the direction ourselves, so we wanted to do something more straightforward, more together, more homogeneous, let's call it this way, and that was Irreligious. And I think Far From God picks up a little bit from that simplicity of mixing metal and gothic without a lot of things in between. And also because the songs are catchy and the songs are simple. Not that simplicity, it's hard. Sometimes it's harder to be simple than to be complex. And nowadays, I think a lot of the metal fans wait for that. I think sometimes when I go in to listen to some modern metal bands, I'm totally overwhelmed because there's so much information. You know, there's the breakdowns, there's the 8-string guitars, there's all these solos, all these vocals, and sometimes I want to listen to a simple song like Iron Maiden or something like that. So with Moonspell, we kind of took care that the songs are catchy, that the songs are to be listened to at the first time. Of course, you know, press things are always very inflated, but I think there is a link there. There is a link, not exactly because it does sound different. It's been 30 years since Irreligious, but it has a little bit the same themes, the same vibe, and the same simplicity about that. I think that's why it's written there.
And this is the first time you've used one of Eliran Kantor's works for a cover. So was this artwork one of his paintings or his own vision, or was it something that idea came from you?
Or it was his own vision. One of the things I was sure about the album, even I didn't even add the title for the album. I love Eliran Kantor artworks. I think he's much more than a cover designer. I think he's a true artist that could be in a museum, you know. And I hope that it's going to happen sooner or later because his works are definitely much more than music record covers. I collect some of the albums. Sometimes I'm not even that much into the band, but I want to have that cover. I want to have that object. So I think he was the first person that I hired in 2023. I sent him an email. This is a very busy guy, and said, "Well, I want to hire you. I want to work with you for this album. I still don't have songs. I still don't have the title of the album, but I know you're busy. So let's try to find a compromise here. That give me just a second. It's the pulse. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry." Suba. É para subir. O telefone não funciona. Oh, que burro. Que burro. Esse fone. I'm so sorry, Thomas.
Oh, okay, no problem.
She was really. Let me just connect my headphones. Wait a little bit. I'm sorry. I had to go downstairs because she was unable to come up.
No problem.
It's all good. So I was speaking about Eliran. And I did write with him, and I have to say, fortunately, he always ignored my suggestions, because I didn't really know what I wanted. And Eliran had also, like Jaime, he had a vision for this album. So what came up, we're already getting into the deadline after we sent some demos to Eliran, after we sent a lot of information, and just right close to the deadline, he sent me a black and white sketch of what became a Far From God album cover and with an explanation. He didn't need it to make me an explanation or a text. It was just a courtesy of him. And he said that he had this piece before. It was never used for any band. And that it was waiting for the right music and the right album. Eliran is a fan from MOONSPELL since many times, and he loved the album. And I was like, wow, that's even more important, because you already had this piece. He wasn't with the color treatment. It was just a black and white. And he explained it to me that he didn't want to make a cover with a wolf or a cover with a guy on a cross and saying "Far from God." He didn't want to go there in the cliche. He wanted to do something about how the album sounded to him, which was estrangement, distance. So he portrayed something which is very important in the Western culture and the Catholic culture, which is a kiss. A kiss in our culture can mean, even if we are God believers or Satanists or atheists, whatever, but the kiss means affection or distance. It can mean love, it can mean treason. So, and one of the very important details on the cover, it's the guillotine that hangs above the guy's head, and you never know. And I think that's where art really clicks. You never know if she's kissing him goodbye or if she's luring him into a certain death. And I think when you have art that tells a story too, that adds to the album, I think it's great. I won't say, because I'm too old for that shit, I won't say it's the best cover or the best album, but it's just the way it brings it together. It's something that I really like. One of the things I wanted from Eliran was to imagine if this is not the cover of Far From God, but it's just a painting in a museum. I think people will stop to look at it, and I think that's a great effect. We love it so much that we didn't want any logo on the. We have this. We've been playing with an orchestra lately, and sometimes they are playing just the orchestra, and then it's so beautiful. And then we have to go and play with them. And sometimes we feel like we're going to spoil the mood. And so I asked Eliran to do the logo implementation, as you say. So it's very discreet, the logo. And in our band edition, that we sell it in our shop, it doesn't have any logo. It doesn't say Far From God. That's also our thank you note to Eliran. I think the cover is beautiful, and it tells a story. And we just received the physical copies, to promote them. And I find myself looking at it a lot. And I love art, and I think it's definitely a highlight. I think sometimes I say it was worth to make Far From God, just work with Eliran.
And choosing the first single is always quite a challenge. Why made you decide on the title track?
Like you say, it's always a challenge because, MOONSPELL has 3 decades. We started releasing music where single was totally an uncool thing, to say the least, for a metal band. If you had a single, you were commercial. And then things changed, and the industry's changed, and we're still here. So, and some parts of the industry have forced us, and it's not only the bands to blame, it's also the fans, people demand stuff. People want to take a test drive on the album. So it's all a big confusion because we still old school when it comes to make the album. We don't want to be stuck to singles. We're not that kind of mainstream pop band, and we don't buy into that speech that people don't have time to listen to music. People are going to listen to a couple of songs. So you do a couple of songs, you have a couple of singles or videos, then you go on the road and you play the old songs. So there's a lot of noise always in between. So as you say, just to justify that, it's hard to get a single, and there's a lot of music where Far From God comes from. But we have to send someone into the battle first, like an avant-garde, whatever, soldiers or whatever that want to go to the fight. So I thought Far From God to start with was a song that represents the album. It could be surprising as it was because it's very simple and very catchy, and people didn't really know what to expect after Hermitage, and also because it turned out to be a great video, because it has this cinematic feeling about it. The song itself is already inspired by cinema, like Nosferatu's from Robert Eggers and the old movies from Murnau. So it was quite. We have 3 singles before the album comes, and they're going to be Far From God. They're going to be Cross Your Heart, which is the opener, and we released it a couple of weeks ago. And it's a more, let's say, a more balanced song. It has a more riff, it has more groove into it, and it's going to be a great Wolf in the Sky, which is a more of a Moonspell song with atmosphere, with a part with growling vocals. But as you say, I always invite people to find the time to listen to the whole album because there's a narrative there. The band worked on all the songs. The band was meeting to choose which song comes first, which songs comes last, why, because of the sound, because of the note, because of the melody. So we always, in hope that people first don't make their minds about the album just for the singles, which it's okay because they belong to the album too, but also give a chance to the album. I'm very confident. We had the listening session here in Sintra, in Portugal, with 100 fans. And when you listen to the album, I think most of them, they always whine too. Probably they were just drunk or something, but they really loved the experience, especially after the third song, which is called Biblical, came. They were okay. So we're getting into a different experience now. So I'm pretty confident. I think it's a solid album. It's a catchy album. So I think so far, so good. So.
And you mentioned Nosferatu by Robert Eggers. And it got me thinking because you've mentioned in one of the interviews that it's the movie that resurrected the vampire in the movies, like in the good way. And it got me thinking, what was the last good vampire movie? And it turns out that it's almost a decade ago because it was Byzantium by
That's a good one. Yeah.
The director of Interview with the Vampire, and probably Only Lovers Left Alive by Jim Jarmusch.
Jim Jarmusch is, it's something. There is also, these movies. I really like movies about vampires that are not really about vampires, like the Jim Jarmusch book, because they had a different way of telling the story. There is also the Addicted by Abel Ferrara, which is a great movie. There's The Hunger with David Bowie. So those films have this pop culture about it. But I mean, the hardcore vampire movies kind of took a blow, and I kind of think Robert Eggers really made. I also like Jean-Luc Besson Dracula because a lot of people hated it because sometimes it's funny, like the Roman Polanski movie about vampires, kind of burlesque even. I really like the book. I really like the film. I really like the actor. But when we talk about, there was 2 moments for Far From God that were really important. One was to watch Robert Eggers movies because I love his movies. Lighthouse, for instance, is one of my favorite movies. But when I was looking at it, when I was watching it, I was watching it like if F.W. Murnau came into 2024 and made a horror movie with everything available. And Murnau was known, especially in Faust, of making all resources back in 1923 or 22, all resources from photography and studio and props. He made everything, he put everything into the movie. So I was watching it. I think it really captured, it wasn't, I mean, I'm not a cinema expert, but it really captured the message or the core essence, what is the Dracula or Nosferatu in the literature too, which is just a man minding his own business until love is stolen from him. And then all hell breaks loose and he sees no other thing than to come back, reclaim what he lost, what the world or God or mankind or warlike attitudes made him lost, and then he goes for it, you know. And I think that's the figure of vampire. I think it's as important as Dracula is as important as Frankenstein or Dr. Faust, you know, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think it's one of those literary central pieces of European, British, or North American literature that are really a picture of loss and pain and how love tangles with it. And what I saw, besides those movies that you mentioned, was either vampires gone fantasy, vampires gone humor, you know. And I was very cold about it, and especially when I listened to you know, Bill Skarsgård talking, I was like, well, I did that in 95. He's talking like I was talking in Vampiria, you know, and he had all this. So it was quite as a joke, but I kind of felt connected with it. And the other thing that connected me back to Gothic metal was the Tribulation album, Sub Rose to Aeternum, by the Swedish band. I think it was the same year, 2024. So I was home and a friend of mine called me up and say, "Are you singing in a new Tribulation? Because it's pretty good." I was like, "No, I'm not singing in there," but I was curious, you know. And I went to Spotify, then I bought the vinyl, and I loved it. I thought they made a great album. So I picked up the album, went to Ricardo and Pedro that songwrite me and say, "Hey, what are we doing? You know, these guys are making what we should do, because Tribulation is a great band and they have a great direction." And that kind of clicked it for us. It's not like we want to compete against them. We are friends. And I think they did an amazing album. I love it. And we're going to play with them at the Castle Party in Poland, actually. So I'm looking forward to watch their show, because I haven't been in a show of them with this album. I just watched it on YouTube. But it was kind of a wake-up call for us to claim a little bit back of that Moonspell Gothic metal magic. And when it comes to vampires, nowadays I'm more connected again, because I've been, you know, intellectually in a lot of stuff since I started studying philosophy. And now I'm 51. It's time to get back to the classics again. Even the books I'm reading, I read modern books, of course. I mean, I don't want to live in the past, but I'm reading all the French, you know, Zola and you know, other kinds of books, and I really like it. I think the classics for me are what I feel it's needed for me to survive in this, you know, messed up world, and with everybody just pulling the strings, you know.
And you've mentioned that the next single will be "The Great Wolf in the Sky," and it's a tribute to a fan who passed away before the album was finished. Could you tell us more about it?
Well, the album was finished already, and we were coming to Portugal, and we got the news that Pedro Pires, it's his name. We got the news that he died. He died in a very macabre way, because he died in a church. He was on a wake of the father of a friend of him that had died. So they were in the church just paying respect to the body before. We do this in Portugal, maybe in Poland too. We have this night before. and then the people get buried. It's all very Catholic, and it's all very, it's a big procession, and it takes a long time. So I got word. I immediately called his wife. Her name is Sonia, and her daughter. And it was just like they were talking to me, and he was a big fan. He comes from my neighborhood too. So he's been there since Moonspell was Morbid Goth, even, I remember him wanting to listen to metal, and we were gatekeeping him because we didn't want him to listen to the stuff that he listens to Maiden, Slayer, but we already listened to King Diamond and Bathory. So he had a lot of trouble with us, that the Moonspell guys, because it was a closed circle. But then he got in. We were just kids. So, and I believe, I don't know. I think he was even buried on a Moonspell shirt, So, and also when I was speaking to his widow, she said that he was, they call him the wolf too in his households, like more in a private, like family way. So I asked his widow to dedicate him this song because Grey Wolf in the Sky is it's also a simple lyric. It's about not this wolf from wolf art, like a strong animal marking his territory and showing his fangs, like when we were doing it when we were younger. But it's almost of a more mature wolf that is in the sky. It's like a godlike protective figure. And I thought about it like a cosmic wolf. So when Pedro died, and I mean, I don't know if I believe in life after death or not. I have no idea. I have no opinion. I have an opinion, but it can change tomorrow. But there is something that happens, really. And symbolically, Pedro joined something bigger. It can be heaven, hell, I don't know. He was a good guy. Or it can be the stars, or it can be a constellation, or it can be the ground. But he started being he stopped being just Pedro, and he went to somewhere more cosmic, let's call it this way. So the lyrics is about it. So I think music is also to pay tribute, not just to make money or to be famous or to travel around the world and have fans. I think music is very special. I always say music is worth for nothing, but it can be everything. You know what I mean? Because with music, you cannot build a boat. You cannot bake some bread. You have to use flour. You have to. So music is immaterial. But people are born all the time, and mothers pick up a song to have on the nursery. How many times have I been asked, what song would you like to be played on your funeral? And people sometimes already answered Moonspell, which I found very tragic, but also important. So I think it's a good tribute to Pedro. He was a really nice guy and a huge Moonspell fan.
And in one of your interviews, you said that after Hermitage, you didn't feel you had it in you anymore. But in Reconquista, we have lyrics that reference the very first EP by Moonspell. So was it like a statement? This shout out under the moon, under the spell, that Moonspell is back at full strength. That you are as strong as a band as in the beginning.
I think I'm stronger now. It's lyrics, even though they are the Moonspell lyrics, it's very personal as well. Moonspell is very personal to me. I think that's obvious, and to the other guys too. But maybe even more for me because I've been there since the Morbid Goth times. And there is this tradition in Moonspell that the last song, be it Alma Mater or Full Moon Madness or Tired for Butterfly Effect, The Future is Dark from Extinct, it's the most meaningful song. It has this slower, epic, more tendency, and it's about Moonspell. It's about what it takes to be in a band. Don't forget, we are from Portugal, and for us to be in a band, it's not something so common. To have a band like Moonspell from Portugal, it's something that, of course, now we have, for instance, Guerilla, fortunately, and we had other bands, but it's still a rarity. People, bands from Sweden, it's a dime a dozen. They're very good, but it's not a big surprise when you listen to a band from Sweden, and they have all the conditions. But for Portugal to be in the band, it's a struggle. So we 2018 tour with Rotting Crust, which was very hard on us. And then Mike leaving the band, and then pandemics, and then Hermitage. I was doubting if I had anything else to bring into the music and into the lyrics of Moonspell. And when I doubt, because it's not like I'm the boss, but I'm the guy that steers the band. I have to make the concept, I have to make the lyrics so that the music shows up. It's our way of working. So I had this big period of listening more to music, of understanding the legacy for what we have to. It was important that we made shows of Wolf Art. It was important that we made the show with the orchestra. So all these little pieces helped me to glue together what for me was a broken vase, you know. And sometimes when you glue things together, they're even stronger. So I feel very good in Moonspell, and I feel very enthusiastic. And I feel Moonspell nowadays, it's again a powerful force, a powerful voice in our territory of metal. It's not like a big mainstream band. We're not Sabaton playing arenas or Amon Amart, but we have our value and we have our fans. And for sure now I'm very grateful. So Reconquista, it's not about kicking the Muslim out of our countries. That was in the past. Reconquista, it means to win back, you know, to reconquer. And I think what we are reconquering with this album, it's Moonspell, you know, and it allowed us to have more ears for the future. And I think it allowed us to be a bit more proud of ourselves, which I think it's a great thing and a very necessary thing when you are in the band, because you travel, like I say metaphorically, you suffer, you are in pain, you miss home, you miss your kid, you miss your wife, you get in trouble in the roads, you experiment, you sometimes are so desperate that you can do a tragic thing, like we see all the time musicians committing suicide or dying alone in tour buses. So it's not a hard, it's not an easy life. So I really wanted to tell people with Reconquista that we are here to stay until a certain point, of course, because we're not going to make it like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or Metallica. Those are very big bands, you know, and it's just crazy to think how I listened to them when I was like the age of my kids, and they're still around, and I can still go see them live, which is something beautiful. I don't think that will happen with Moonspell, but while we're here, yeah, we have to stand our ground, definitely.
And you have another interview scheduled?
Yeah, but just in 10 minutes.
Okay, so the last question. As part of album's promotion, you released Far From God and Other Spells, which is something like Before the Lights Go Out with Jaime Touch. So I'm guessing the Joy Division cover is from the limited edition of Darkness and Hope, but where do the live versions of the songs came from? From what concert?
Well, I don't remember by heart because it's written in there, but I think they came from a tour we did with Insomnium after the pandemic, which was a very hard tour because people were still not believing there was shows. So it wasn't. Some places were really good, other places were really bad. But nowadays, like living more than 30 years with Moonspell, I remember places and shows we played. They were totally awesome experiences, and we didn't have the material to record them. So nowadays, what we do, like many bands, we don't want to be like producing contents, if you know what I mean. But we have to have our legacy. We have to have our chest, because when the magazine asks us to do stuff, we really have to dig in our chest, in our treasure chest, and make it available. And also for the fans, it's really cool. So I think those were recorded in European tour with Insomnium. But I was just digging together with Pedro in our rehearsal place. We had a little construction. So we just digged up like dozens of DAT tapes from Wolf Art and the religious tours. Well, they're not the best sounding. They're probably not the best played. But sometimes I feel that Moonspell is our museum, and I'm the keeper of that museum, the curator, let's call it this way. And sometimes we just let people get into our stuff that is not so known. And I think nowadays it's a good time to start sharing these jewels as well. So I think the fans can expect more of this, not all the time paying for it or buying a magazine to acquire it, but also sometimes in our networks on our YouTube, we're gonna make available some rarities in there, or even like we have 30 years of Irreligious coming this year, so we're probably gonna print a special edition with a record, a songbook, a guitar songbook, and probably a live album, but not from the actual period of Moonspell, from the past with all its charm and mistakes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is all that I had prepared. So thank you very much for your time. Have fun doing.
Thank you, Thomas.
other
And I'm sorry
interviews.
about sorry about the post, but you know, probably you get the same in Poland. They're crazy. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the interview. It's been my pleasure.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.